Welcome to the Tech Trends Podcast, where we discuss the latest manufacturing technology, research, and news. Today's episode is sponsored by MFG Conference. I'm Ramia Lloyd, and I'm here with...
I'm Elissa Davis.
I'm Stephen Lamarca.
And Benjamin Moses. What's up, everyone? Welcome to 2025.
We did it.
Woo!
Merry New Year.
How exciting.
I want to get right into some technology stuff we've been working on because we made some really good progress over the break.
Yeah.
Well, my break because I took a long time off. But
Listen, I didn't do anything. It was all on Chloe this time around. Because she genuinely enjoys working on the test bed, and who doesn't? Like, what's not to love? But Chloe has been in charge of sourcing and implementing the vision system that will be employed on our test bed. And another thing that was done over the break that she did was installing Nvidia's Omniverse and getting it up and running, and that piqued my interest because the most recent thing that I did that was really big on the test bed was sourcing and assembling with a lot of help the new PC, and I want to make sure that it is performing to spec. So like whenever she runs or anybody runs Omniverse, I was like, this is what we built this thing for. So I want to make sure it's performing, and we're doing benchmarking. But she's been doing a lot, mostly with the vision system, and she told me the other day that she threw herself for 8 to 9 hours at training the data set for this vision system, which is an Intel RealSense depth sensing camera, meaning there's two cameras that use parallax to determine how far something is away, just like your own eyes. But you have to take a lot of pictures, a lot of pictures, and for each and every single one of those pictures, you need to, with a cursor, make a little red box around the things that you want to identify. In our case, we are identifying different materials of bar stock, and we've got different types of 6-inch long, 1-inch diameter bar stock that can work in the Pocket NC of 3 different materials: Delrin, aluminum, silver color, Delrin being white plastic, aluminum being silver colored dull metal, and brass, yellow, goldish in color metal. And for I think she took hundreds, if not thousands, of pictures. And for each and every single one of those pictures, she had to put a box around each of the pieces of bar stock and identify it as like what type of material it was. And she did that for like 8 or 9 hours. And another cool thing that she told me about doing, just to build the data set so it knows what it's looking at, so it can learn from that data set. Another cool thing that she told me about is like once it starts looking around, the camera starts working on its own and recognizing things on its own. One of the sliders, one of the parameters that you adjust in the programming, funny enough, at least I found it amusing, is called confidence. And you adjust the confidence from 0 to 100%. And immediately on hearing about this, I was like, well, who doesn't want to be 100% confident all the time?
Right.
Problem is that I did not realize, but it seems pretty obvious now. If you are at 100% obvious, you're going to, or 100% confidence, you are going to be 100% wrong all of the time, most of the time. And it's funny that she found that the sweet spot for accuracy for a camera with the setup that we have now, and some of the variables that affect the accuracy are the lighting, and we do not have optimized lighting over there, kind of like we do in the studio. Because it's right next to a big window, and window means daylight, and the day is constantly changing because time is not fixed. We don't have to get metaphysical. But like the light is constantly changing, so it's constantly skewing the data. It is a variable that can be accounted for eventually, and I don't want to put that in her eyes right now, or in her mind right now, because she's got a million other things she's working on. But she found that the ideal confidence setting to get the most accuracy out of the image recognition is 4 to 8%.
Confidence level.
4 to 8% confident.
Yeah.
So like,
Wow.
I want to be more like this camera.
Well, it's interesting as you go through this, right? The process of building a training set for object recognition. It's laborious, but it is fairly straightforward, right? You're taking pictures of different scenarios, and you kind of articulate like the different factors, right? Lighting changes the color, changes shadows, things like that, right? It changes what the image looks like. But training, it does take a lot of time, especially if you're working on something new and kind of unique for us, where you're identifying raw material. It's not a thing you can just download off of a data set that's commonly available, right? So creating custom data sets is a thing in the structure of light's fairly important. But the mathematics behind it, right? You talk about accuracy and confidence, which are two different things, right?
Yeah.
So that's the key when you talk about the confidence statistically, and you say, okay, 4 to 6%, everyone would be thrown off, but realistically, it's not bad, right? As a starting off point to get accurate predictions on what the camera can see. So I think as we get more involved with AI, the importance of what the math actually means is going to be more relevant to us on the day-to-day basis, right?
It's just, I found it really amusing. I think it's cool. It's cool learning a new thing like this, especially through somebody else that's doing all the hard work. To quote that Michael Jordan, like 30 for 30 or whatever video it's from, when Michael, and I took that personally. Because with the confidence thing, I remember like growing up, I heard from my sister a lot, "Oh, Stevie, often wrong, never in doubt."
I would love to. I mean, I also function at about 4 to 6% confidence on a daily basis. So, and
Up it to 8. Try upping it to 8.
I'll try upping it to 8. But it's definitely, I relate to the computer in that my confidence is also a sliding scale. But yeah.
Well, speaking of which,
It also depends on the day.
also
The way the
depends on
sun
the day.
sits.
Yeah,
It also
exactly.
depends on on the weather, just like the camera. Yeah. So basically, I am this camera.
Same.
speaking of which, I do want to hit on two things before we get into articles. It snowed and personal goals for 2025.
Yeah. It
So
snowed.
I'm wondering, in our area, we're in like the Midwest. No, I'm not Midwest. Middle Atlantic area.
Mid-Atlantic.
It snowed. We got a fair amount of snow in our west of DC area, about up to 6 inches.
Yeah.
In Fairfax, we got 10.
Yeah.
Shut down everything for past 2 days.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm wondering if we ever get to a point where this is mid inclement weather. Well, it's not severe. It's not a typhoon. It's not a hurricane. It's not an earthquake. 6 to 10 inches is a fair amount of snow, but it's not catastrophic. The government was shut down.
So-
OPM was shut down. School was shut down.
This all has to do with infrastructure.
Okay.
And let me explain. So, having lived in Colorado for 6 years, I lived in a place where it snowed a lot. It literally snows October through May.
Right.
And they think they're prepared for snow because they have the snow plows out and they put sand down on the roads, which, mind you, sand doesn't really do what they think it does. It just makes your car really dirty. It doesn't really melt the ice.
Just makes it muddy.
That's why there's a car wash on every block in Colorado.
Scratches up your paint.
Yeah. But like I remember, so I went to high school. I graduated high school here in Fairfax County. And I remember one day it started snowing in the middle of the day. And it was like big fat flakes, but like it wasn't that bad.
Sure.
Right? But they sent us home in the middle of the day.
Fairfax?
And, yes.
Early dismissal. Yeah.
Yeah, and they got everyone on the buses, and there was plows out, and I was like, "There's nothing on the roads yet, even. Like, why?" So I feel like in these situations, we're either really over prepared or really under prepared.
Yeah, it's never a balance, is
Yeah,
it?
exactly. But I will say, in terms of school, so this is probably an urban legend, but my mom used to work in Spotsylvania County, and she was a teacher there, and she said that part of the reason why schools here in Virginia, or at least from Fredericksburg up, are kind of cautious is that one time there was a kid they didn't cancel school even though there was ice on the roads, and some kid got hit by a car.
Wow.
And they could potentially be liable if that happens, and they were going to school and that kind of stuff.
Waiting on
So
the bus stop.
yeah, so that made them overly cautious, and so now at the slightest dusting of snow, they will cancel at this chance that there is ice on the roads.
Fascinating.
And that's fascinating because this area is notorious for bad drivers.
Yeah.
So
I
you
was
have bad
just gonna
drivers.
say we have bad drivers on a normal day with extreme amount of traffic. You add snow to it, and I'm glad. Everybody sit down. 'Cause
Yeah.
you're not going to be helpful to anyone in this
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
You're already stuck at driving.
That's
It's just
true.
gonna get.
But also,
worse.
people here and I think it's because there's so many people from so many different places.
So many different cultures
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
different
Who
parts of the
drive here.
world.
Sure.
Many
That's-
different driving styles, adhering to one
Yeah.
law of driving.
Yeah.
That's what, and they don't know. A lot of people there are people who don't know how to drive in the rain. There are people who don't know how to drive in the snow. There are people who don't know how to drive in the sunshine.
Exactly.
California does not know how to drive in the rain.
No.
People from Washington probably don't know how to drive in the sunshine. They're probably blinded. They probably don't have sunglasses.
It is very overcast.
There's people from parts of the world that are probably not used to having lines on the road.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of different cultures and styles.
Guys,
Yeah.
2025.
Yeah.
What are you guys doing differently?
My
Personal
goal
goals.
is to be 8% confident.
8%?
8%.
Up from 2?
Up from 2 to 8, we'll get there.
I think a lot of mine just revolves around just doing stuff I already did well last year.
Yeah.
Continuing. Because I was off for like basically 3 weeks. I didn't do anything good for my body.
I mean,
Same.
that's
I
what
didn't read.
vacations are for.
Same.
I didn't do any
Ben.
exercise. I mean, it was great. It was a good time to be off. I stepped on the scale this morning. I was like, oof. 2025 starting off heavy.
Secret: don't use a scale.
Yep.
Just ignore it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We went on a cruise for Christmas, and we came
Nice.
back. My mom was like, "Oh, we should all go on a walk, and we should do these things." And my dad was like, "We've just been on a boat for 8 days, eating and drinking, and now you want to
Yeah.
do all this exercise.
Yeah.
Like, we could have done this on the boat if
Yeah.
you were so serious about it."
They have
and then we all
tracks to
just
do
looked at
that.
each other, and then we went to dinner.
I've made all these plans. We spent the week in Williamsburg after Christmas. I spent all these plans. I picked a place that has like indoor pool. We go swimming. It's got a good exercise area. We just lounge around. We
Yeah.
barely even made it outside to do shopping.
Yeah.
So,
I personally believe that vacations are not for exercise
yeah.
Same.
unless you're going like walking around an amusement park.
We did that.
Yeah.
I tried to do hiking.
That's
but
exercise.
family was
That's
against that.
exercise. You get your steps in.
I mean, I drank a lot of beer too. So
I mean,
Oh my God.
as long as you drink a lot of water too, it's fine.
There's water in beer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's fine.
My goal: I'm starting grad school,
nice.
and my goal is to hopefully be good at it.
I am sure you will be.
Solid goal. I like it.
Telling us about your class before we started recording, it sounds like you're
Yeah, it's
you're
right
gonna
up your alley.
do just fine. It not more. That's an understatement.
Thank you.
Going into 2025, I want to open my ears more, close my mouth more, try to keep my head down and vision clear for what I want to work on. And also just not try to get overwhelmed and not try to get too gung-ho. Because I really 2024 was a rough year for a lot of people. I'm blessed that it wasn't terrible for me, but it went by really fast, and I probably sound like a broken record from other years of our podcast because I say the same thing. I really want it to slow down, and it ends up not happening. It ends up being the opposite of that. But going in as we transitioned into 2025 during the holiday break, I saw a meme that really resonated with me hard on Instagram, and it was a picture of the summit of Mount Everest. And I think the quote was, it's not verbatim, but the quote was something along the lines of, every dead body on Mount Everest was once a highly motivated individual. Maybe calm down. And I'm like, dude, I love this. I don't think I'm the one who needs to hear it. I should probably, get my steps in. But I really want more people to hear that. Because we all at least know somebody that needs to see that meme.
Yeah. Can I just say that is the most millennial sentence I've ever heard? I saw this meme that really, really resonated with me on Instagram.
I am what I am.
Yeah.
You were walking.
I mean,
That's
as
okay.
a fellow millennial, I get it.
When in Rome,
it's
be
just-
American.
Sorry.
What's the problem?
That's a good transition to our sponsor.
That was really good. Okay. The MFG meeting brings together manufacturing technology industry leaders to address key business challenges and provide actionable solutions. Sessions cover a wide range of topics, including workforce, economics, supply chains, leadership, politics, and more. The unique meeting experience provides unparalleled opportunities to network with executives from companies that make, sell, service, and support MT. These peers and competitors will learn from each other, build long-lasting connections, and share insights that will benefit their business. Go to amtonline.org/events to register.
Awesome. Thanks, Ramia.
Thank you.
Hey, you know what else? Something I also learned for 2025.
What's that?
I actually learned this a while ago and I forgot to implement it earlier. But you should like, share, and subscribe and comment. We should say that in the middle of the video instead of at the end. Apparently, it gets better results in the middle.
Oh.
Do it.
Pause,
Yeah.
everyone. Thank you.
Like, share,
Yeah,
subscribe.
Ramia's dad. How about you leave us a comment?
Yeah.
We hear
us
you
really
talking
feel
all
Ramia's
this
dad.
smack.
Nice
How about you put it in the comments.
Make them nice, please.
Let's get into some articles about Da Vinci.
Yeah. So
He's still around.
Ramia's dad.
Ramia's dad is actually Leonardo da Vinci.
I wouldn't be surprised. That guy's kind of really smart and scary.
All right, we're going to get him too full of himself.
He's going to be at home texting
No.
me like, ha, 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 ha.
Now there's no reason for him to not leave a comment. Now he has to leave a comment. But
Comment if you're not Da Vinci.
yeah, comment if you're not Da Vinci. Okay, so I kind of want to preface this with the short story. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. So in 6th grade, I had a science teacher, and he was also my homeroom teacher. He was obsessed with Leonardo da Vinci. Like, we literally had an entire unit where we had to do a project about Leonardo da Vinci. Something that he did, and we had to do a project about it. And so, like, ever since, I've been kind of interested in Da Vinci because I'm like, okay, well, if my science teacher's like this obsessed with him, then like he's probably pretty cool, right? Obviously, he's done more than just science stuff. He's also done art stuff, which is pretty cool. But this
also
is
a Ninja
specifically
Turtle.
about, it's called Da Vinci's Bridge. And it was brought to life in the city of Bari, I think is how you pronounce it, Bari. They 3D printed it. So he designed it, and it's a self-supporting bridge. Like, the arch is designed in a way in which it's self-supporting, so it doesn't need any suspension or anything like that. He originally designed it to go over the Golden Horn, which is an inlet of Bosphorus in Istanbul, Turkey. So it was designed to connect the Pera district with Constantinople. So what they did is, this was the Polytechnic University of Bari, and WASP, which
What, Anglo-Saxon Protestant?
no,
Oh.
it's something else.
confident.
They actually used waste materials from stone processing to 3D print this bridge. So they used a combination of low environmental impact mortar developed by the Italian startup B&Y. And that's made up of waste stone powders combined with a lime-based binder, providing a sustainable way to reuse the byproducts of marble and stone processing.
Wow.
That is
Yeah.
really cool.
So all of the chips, scraps, and dust and chunks to come off of like marble sculpting,
Yeah.
the Carrara marble sculpting, which is what Italy's known for, that can all be like ground down to equal sized granules to be then 3D print. That's so cool.
Yeah, because basically, like, they turn the waste materials into like a concrete, right, and then
Yeah.
print it. That
But will
way.
the 3D printed marble lose its marbling?
Probably.
Does it lose a soul as it becomes a structure? Is that what you're asking?
Does the marble have good marbling?
I actually bring a really interesting point where it's a good intersection of the concept of using waste material in 3D printing. That's been a growing concept. Like, people printing at home, like, I got all the extra filament. What do I do with this? So chopping it up and then reusing that, like,
Yeah.
chopped carbon fiber, right, is basically that, right? You have all this waste material. Let's reuse it into some type of material, or into some type of form.
I love watching the videos of people taking like their disposable plastic bottles from like buying like water at Walmart.
Yep.
You take the label off, you clean up all the adhesive that was on the label, and then they 3D printed this little device that actually has like an X-Acto knife on it or something like that, and it cuts up the plastic bottle. Cuts up the plastic bottle to turn the plastic bottle into filament.
Yep.
That is so cool.
Okay, wait. So when I was a kid, we would put all of our plastics into like a larger plastic bag, probably not safe, but we would reuse it. So like, and then we would take it to the store and like put it into machines that did that, and they would give you like change and like money from it.
Wow.
And this was in Michigan. So when we moved to Tennessee, that wasn't a thing anymore, and we were like, what do we do with all this plastic? And apparently, there's only like not very many states do this. And
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
doesn't make
Virginia
sense because they
doesn't
would
do
literally
that.
like smash it and comes into like those cubes.
It blew my mind when I went to school in
crazy.
Vermont. there was this gas station that we lovingly referred to as Shady Mobile near the college. They had a deli, they had liquor, and you would bring them your bottles and cans, and they would give you money, and then you'd spend it in the liquor store.
Yeah.
You could also get gas there.
Yeah, see, that's my kind of place.
Like, wild.
Yeah.
Vermont's efficient. Also, snow up to your waist. Never canceled anything. Vermont doesn't cancel.
Yeah.
There's also 5 people in Vermont.
There's also 5 people, and also everybody up there,
everywhere.
and everybody drives all 5 of them drive a Subaru Outback.
Yeah,
No,
so they're
so they're
not
fine.
getting
Yeah.
stopped.
Yeah.
No, they're fine.
Exactly.
I do also want to mention this is a pedestrian bridge. It's not like a bridge.
No, I
so
mean,
like it's a
it's
small
beautiful.
scale model.
Yeah.
But the idea
the
of,
bridge.
I think it was about 5-6 years ago, there's a Scandinavian company I was looking at metallic 3D printing a bridge using robots, right? So there's a couple of concepts that I think bridges are a really good test case for universities that applies applications because, one, it is useful to see it's big, right? Can you span this structure? So, I mean, if they did like a cup, that's not that interesting, right? But the ability for them to push their boundaries both in the material and in the overall form of a bridge, it seems like it's a repeating use case that seems to be testing the waters quite a bit. So
Yeah.
I really like this a lot. It's fascinating because it does solve a lot of problems that haven't been solved yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we have all this waste
adorable.
material from construction. Why not use it to? I mean, it's another method of recycling that doesn't put the. No, I was gonna say puts the burden on the companies rather than the individual. But
Steve,
Yes, sir.
let's get some bad news.
The bad news. Okay, so for us cutlery and EDC pocket knife enthusiasts, a household company name is Crucible. You've probably seen it before with CPM, Crucible Particle Metallurgy, before a grade of a stainless steel alloy or a specific blend recipe for a stainless steel alloy that goes on your grossly overpriced pocket knife. Crucible, a while back, I forget if it was either earlier this year or last year, maybe it was before. Crucible is that big company that makes all of these amazing, incredibly nerdy alloys specifically for high-end cutlery. Was purchased by Carpenter, which is a great move on Carpenter's part, and I thought it was really going to help support Crucible doing what they do best, which is make these really nerdy pocket knife steel alloys. But Carpenter, as we know, they are an AMT member, I believe. But they advertise a lot in the additive industry and manufacturing industry in general. They're very awesome alloy steel powerhouse. And they bought Crucible. Crucible, sadly, is going out of business, and they are starting to liquidate their assets and IP. This is really sad to the pocket knife and cutlery community because one of the concerns is, well, what's going to happen to these steels? Does that mean like the stock of these steel powders is just going to run out, and once it's out, it's gone forever? Or is Carpenter going to pick up the slack, which is probably going to happen? But there is a chance that we could run out of these steel powder alloys. As a reaction to this, because it's happening faster than the community thought it would, I did end up buying myself a Christmas present over the break, and I got myself a knife made from CPM Magna Cut, which is Crucible's magnum opus blade steel, which it has insane edge retention, has insane toughness, meaning it is very unlikely to yield to bending or fracturing when you apply force to it. It's incredibly corrosion resistant and temperature resistant and holds an edge really well. Like it's a perfect alloy Usually, when the more perfect the alloy gets, the more of the pain in the butt they are to sharpen. But if you make it good enough, you'll never need to sharpen it. That's not entirely true, but like it'll have a working edge for a very long time. And I got one, and it's kind of sad, and like it's the future of Crucible and all of these alloys that Ben and I probably have in our pocket right now is in limbo.
And this kicks off a interesting scenario where we've been talking about designer materials, so creating custom materials for different applications. The whole universe of, instead of just buying 300 series stainless steel or 17.4 or Inconel, coming up with custom applications and then using those in very unique cases. What happens when the company goes out of business, right?
Right.
The end of life scenario. I mean, we've seen this scenario occur in defense a lot, where there's an old story about tailhooks for one of the fighters or something that was being designed in the Air Force, where I think they were retrofitting an aircraft to be launched out of a carrier. So they said, we only need 600 tailhooks for this thing. So they had a custom material, said it worked great. 10,000 aircraft later, like, I don't know what to do with this thing. Where do we source replacements? How do we keep building this thing? So I think additive and custom materials is going to run into warranty and sustainment issues. Like, how do we handle this at end of life? I mean, luckily for blades, no one's launching aircraft for this thing, but
well, I mean, like speaking from from the knife community perspective, when you get really nerdy and dumb and spend way too much money on a single pocket knife just to open cardboard boxes on a regular basis instead of actually like going out and camping and batoning wood sticks to make fires. When you spend that much money with a lot of these great knife companies that use these insanely impressive steels, if something happens to it, like you actually end up breaking a blade, usually you can message, call the company, and they will replace the blade. Like you have to send your knife to them, and they will disassemble it, put a new blade in it, sharpen it up, true up the action, and send it back to you for a small fee, much less than the initial price of the blade, that for certain. But what happens when you've got a CPM MagnaCut blade and Crucible's out of business, and you go back to the company that made your knife, whether it's Benchmade or Spyderco or somebody, and like, I need a new blade for this. And it's like, well, it's not going to be the same grade of steel.
Right.
It's scary.
It's interesting.
This economy, man. First Party City.
It's not really
Now
that
Crucible.
Party City, man, that hurts.
Party City has been a staple in my life for so long.
What happened to Party City?
They're
They're going out of business.
They're taken over by Spirit Halloween?
I don't know. But yeah, they're closing all their stores.
Wow.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
I know.
I do have some good news. The last article I want to talk about was Nvidia. So we had CES a couple of weeks ago. Tons of announcements, but the big focus that I've picked up on, it's obvious, where Nvidia and a lot of other companies are shifting towards supporting artificial intelligence, specifically on the hardware side. And that was the biggest interesting takeaway for me. Was like, there are announcements on creating generative physical AI to power autonomous factories and warehouses. So we've seen an explosion of hardware dedicated just for the mathematics behind artificial intelligence and machine learning. It's an interesting thing where on the gaming side, consumer level, they've had predictive frame generation. So when you're running a game, if you push the graphics all the way up, it's going to, your frame rate's going to take a hit, right? So you're running like 30 frames per second. That's fine. That's running great. But people want 100, 200, 300.
Oh, yeah.
So what they've done is using artificial intelligence to predict the next frame ahead. So you can basically duplicate that. Now what they're doing is predicting 3 frames ahead. So they have individual hardware and chips and silicone to do just those predictions. And if you cascade that to the industrial side, they're working on equipment for servers and, deployable computers, so someone at home can start developing their own data set and their own artificial intelligence tool. So it's a very interesting scenario where everyone's focusing on the software side of AI, but really the infrastructure is really what's going to help get us there. On 2 layers, right? One is power consumption.
Yeah.
Because it's very intense still. Microsoft is still going to buy a nuclear power reactor to power their server farm.
Good.
But where I think we're headed is where the parallel we've seen in most silicon applications, the hardware side of it is consume a lot of power up front, but then see efficiency gains over the life of the application.
And honestly, two things I want to say. This is great. Number one, this is great news for gamers.
Sure.
Because this means that if other people want, initially it seems a little scary, because if other people other than gamers want, like, you know, these high-end silicon to do all of this crazy stuff that is now applicable to these various other industries, you know, what's going to happen to the stuff that I want? Like, is it going to take a hit? But it's actually developing it even better. And we saw this, you know, starting at the beginning of the pandemic with how the quantum leap forward gamers went from when Nvidia went from like the GTX to the RTX cards. That was a quantum, but you paid for it. And now it seems like in the last 4 years, it was like the RTX 20 series. Nvidia just announced the 50 series. Like, that's 3 new generations of cards in 4 years, which in 5 years, which in hindsight doesn't actually seem like that much, but it's a lot of development in the. If you look at the history of how GPUs have been, it's usually 1 every 2 years. So they've sped up a lot, but the big announcement that I saw also from Nvidia was they just announced yesterday the 50 series and the 5070, the entry level card, is going to be $550, which is pretty expensive for an entry-level card, but it already outperforms the released last year RTX 4090.
Which was $1,500.
Like, an entry-level card a year later is now surpassing the most premium, even regarded as industrial-grade GPU from the year before. Is insane.
And you did see a reduction in like physical dimensions of it. So the thermal capability of it was actually reduced. So it's a smaller card, less fans on it. So it's a very interesting package. But the thing that I want to hear about is like, what's the impact to manufacturing technology? Because most of the controllers are basically a PC, right?
Yep.
It requires CPU, requires GPU. Like, what are we doing differently on board manufacturing technology that is going to require this hardware? Because we've talked about, you know, edge computing versus cloud. Cloud is definitely getting more robust and it's easier to scale up, but at some point you still have to do calculations on machine. And I'm definitely kind of interested to see how our members are going to take advantage of this to create new technologies or be more efficient at it.
Yeah.
So with that, Ramia can tell us where people could find us.
amtonline.org/resources. Like, share, subscribe.
Bye, everyone.
Bing bong.